I'm Frank Grillo. Welcome to the Life in Film podcast.
This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
Pure Clear Dry is a whole new kind of antiperspirant with a revolutionary new formula that gives you the outstanding dryness protection of a solid, yet it glides on this clear.
The video connection wasn't great on my end, so I did attempt to cut around any blurry images, but apologies if there are still a few in there. Our guest today has fought against the Avengers, reached boss level, and in his latest movie, he takes on werewolves. What's next? DC and James Gunn's Superman legacy. We talk about martial arts and mental health, why being cut from a Spielberg movie wasn't the end of the world, and getting to work with his heroes including Nick Nolte and Sylvester Stallone. Our guest today is actor Frank Grillo.
Okay, let's do this.
I am a huge fan, man. Everything that you do, like I watch your workout videos, I watch your movies.
Thanks, brother.
I do
Thank you.
Jujitsu, so like I'm into all of that as well.
I love it.
I'd love to ask, because my podcast is usually about, the stepping stones from the beginning, like how that passion started, how you got into performance, how you found, you're living the dream, man. How did that begin?
Yeah, for me, it was, again, I didn't take it very seriously, and it kind of came to me. And, I started out in soaps when I was young, and I never, again, I worked hard, but I thought I was working hard. But it wasn't until I was 39 years old, or however old I was, or 40, where the work started. And then I started watching people and really getting into cinema in a real specific way. And I wanted to learn how these people were doing what they were doing. And because it's not just talent, this is a craft. You got to do your work. You got to learn what it is. And you got to get on stage. You got to expose yourself. And Nolte, by following Nolte around when I did Warrior, that was a whole next level thing that got me into the movie business. Really did, in a serious way. Because I thought I was doing the work then. And I saw what Nolte did, and I was like, oh my God, there's no accident in success. Like, it's not an accident that Nick Nolte's Nick Nolte. He doesn't just show up and say lines. I mean, this guy does, and all the great ones do. So much homework, so much work to get to a place where you can then play. You know what I mean? And he instilled that in me without knowing he instilled it in me. And from Warrior, that changed my life. That absolutely changed my life.
Oh yeah, I love that film. It's such a great movie, and like to work with someone like that, Nick Nolte, and be by his side and be able to learn from him. I mean, what a fantastic opportunity that must have been at that time. Was that surreal, getting that first sort of feel of like, holy shit, I'm working with someone that I grew up watching?
Yeah, and I used to watch, long before you were born, there was a mini series on television called Rich Man, Poor Man, and he was like this young, beautiful, and I was a kid, and I was like, who's that guy? Like, he's a badass. He was just all masculine and fucking blonde hair, and I mean, he was like, and I'm an Italian kid. My immigrant parents are all dark, and so there was this guy, on TV in my living room, and I remember thinking, oh my God, man, this guy's amazing. And then getting to work with him. Just like I work with Sly now, I work with Mel Gibson, Liam Neeson. All these guys have been very influential in my acting life. And to get to work with them and to get their respect, as a peer, it is surreal. It is like, Sly just called me yesterday. We're talking about something from Tulsa King, and we FaceTime each other, and I'm like, wow, man, it's just never lost on me that, there's Rocky. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, you literally have worked with everyone. Like, I being a fan of your films, I was aware of that, but then when I really went through the list, I was like, holy shit, you've literally worked with everyone.
I've been around a lot. I've been around a long time, and I've made a lot of small films with great people that not too many people have seen. But so many great people, like J.K. Simmons, and like real, Melissa Leo, and Annabeth Gish, and I just like the list goes on and on and on, and you're like, God, I've worked with a lot of great people, and it's a gift, So it's a crazy life.
When you go back and you look at, those sort of beginnings of the first few auditions, the first few jobs, and, the little moments that were like, oh, that was a big deal at the time. Is it a bit mad to look back and think and just see where you are now? That must be pretty surreal.
Yeah, because I've been with so many friends that started when I was young that they're doing other things in their life. And I think, wow, this is a privilege. Like I stuck with it and it worked out for the most part. I still consider myself a struggling actor. There's things that I would like to do that I know, I'm capable of that I've not had the opportunity to do yet. So I still approach it with a childlike uh, passion. I mean, I still feel like there's so much more for me to do. It's great to do these movies, these action, but there's so many more things that are out there. So many people I would love to work with, directors that I'd love to work with and get a chance. I just finished some stuff with James Gunn on Superman and Peacemaker, and he's such a great director. And it's just, I really want to kind of, before I check out, I hope I get the opportunity to work with some people where, I can say, okay, you know what? I wasn't, a giant movie star, but I really starred in a lot of movies that I respect. And so I'm hoping the next 10 years and then I could kind of, it's my swan song and I could kind of float away somewhere.
Man, you're being very humble because you've done some absolute bangers, like some classics. And I mean, my personal favorites as well. I mean, and I'm really intrigued. You mentioned that obviously James Gunn, and you've just done not only the new Superman with him, but like you've done the new cartoon Creature Commandos as well, which is something that's obviously coming out in too. And it's the same character, right, in both projects, but one's a cartoon and one's a. What's that? That must be a bit mad getting to do that, like voice a character and then actually get to like live the character.
Yeah, I mean, he called me when he took over DC, and he goes, "This is what we're doing first." And I told you I was going to call you, and this is who I want you to play, and I'm going to send you the scripts, and we're going to call your agents. And I said, "You don't have to call my agents. I'm in, man." And he said, "But our plan is that when we go live action, I want you to play Rick Flag Sr. He's going to kind of be a connective tissue in a lot of other things." And sure as hell, he called with Peacemaker. And I did the whole season of Peacemaker with John Cena, which was fantastic. And then he said, I need you in Superman, and this is what I need you to do. And I'm like, whatever you need, man. And I just, I got the script, and I was like, I love Superman. So it's been great, and it's been great he let me have carte blanche with the character. But yeah, it's like, it's finally, I feel like, wow, somebody kind of recognized something. I've been banging around for a long time. And somebody kind of recognized something in me and trusted me and just said, run with it. And we want you to be part of this new DC. So it's really an honor for me to be part of this embryonic start of the new DC universe, and kind of ironic. And I'm humbled by it. There's so many actors that this guy could call. And so I wish my mother and father were alive.
I mean, I'm sure they're looking down. They're proud, man, because it's amazing. I mean, not only that, all these big films you've done. The fact that you've managed to be able to, and I'm not going to talk about it much, but the fact Marvel, and now you're doing DC, you've dipped your toe in all these like franchises, these huge. And I mean, like what you mentioned there, that there's a few things you really want to do and a few people you want to work with. Obviously, James Gunn is one that you've just worked with. What is it? Is there a project you're like, I want to do that? That's something I really want to do. That's the person I want to work with. Something that you would like, love to do.
Yeah. I love David Fincher. I love everything David Fincher does. I love, and he uses actors in such a specific way. And I kind of dig that because it's a filmmaker's medium. And I just love his movies. I'd love to work with Fincher. I love Steven Soderbergh. Guys who, to me, have created such edgy bodies of work. Really, every film Fincher makes, I see. I'd love nothing more than to be on that list of people that are doing the next Christopher Nolan movie. Do you know what I mean? Because these filmmakers are such masters. Ridley Scott, these are the guys who are at the top of the food chain. These are the guys whose films are going to be watched for a long, long, long time. So that's kind of I think you always need to have a healthy goal. So I keep kind of setting these goals and, hoping that one of these little movies that I do catches somebody's eye. And, but if not, that's okay too, man, because I'm living a great life. I get to support my family by acting, and I can't complain. You know what I mean? It's I love doing movies like Werewolves. It's fun.
Yeah, man.
It's like playing
That's
cowboys
amazing.
and Indians. Yeah, it's fun.
It looked like a lot of fun, to be honest. Yeah, and I'd love to just go back and ask, the kind of movies that really were a game changer. I know obviously The Grey was looking at the films you've done, that was a big deal at the time, and
Yeah.
something like that when you get that role, you get the phone call to say "You got it." What's that like? When you get that breakthrough like that.
Yeah, I had done Warrior with Gavin O'Connor, and before that, I'd done a movie, Pride and Glory, with Gavin O'Connor, with Colin Farrell and Edward Norton. And Joe Carnahan had seen Warrior, and he just called me up. He goes, "Dude, I'm doing a movie called The Grey. You're in the movie. Your agents will call you. I don't care what anybody says. You're in the movie. A great role." And I trusted him. And to his word, he not only put me in the movie, he became one of my best friends. We would later go on to create a company together, and we've made 9 or 10 movies together, some of which we've done together and some of which we've produced, and a TV docuseries.
Boss Level was one of the ones. That's a
Boss
great
Level.
film.
Yeah, we did Boss Level, Wheelman, Point Blank, Cop Shop with Jerry Butler, and then I did Fight World.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so Joe became a good buddy because we were similar artists. The last day we worked together on The Grey, we were at a stream, and it was my dying scene. We literally sat there and talked about death, crying, 2 grown men crying to each other about death, about where we were, about how cathartic the whole experience was. So that's the kind of thing I want to find to keep doing, is to make those kind of connections when you're making films. I'm going to tell you, there's nothing better than that. For me, it's been the most outstanding parts of my life, bar my children's births, is making these connections with these artists that, are just life-changing.
I totally get that. The feeling of camaraderie, it's like a family. And when you leave that family, sometimes you're like, you're a bit lost, after you finish the job.
It's the community it's funny you say that. Like, I've done a lot of things. I've gone from job to job to job, and I've had to train myself not to get too attached to people because, you're on a movie, even if it's just 3 weeks, you're on the movie 3 weeks, it's morning, noon, and night, 3 weeks, you're in the makeup trailer, you go to work, afterwards, maybe you go to dinner, you might live together, you know what I mean? And it's like an intense family experience, and then you're done. And then everybody goes on their own ways. It's like, it's not natural. So I've had to train myself not to let myself get too, not that I'm not making great friendships, but I'm not overly emotional when the thing's over. And I have like the blues for 6 months because I'm not seeing my people, It's a very interesting, it's unlike anything else, acting.
Yeah.
This business, as you know, I mean, you make these amazing connections because it's an emotional connection you make, and then you don't see the person, But I'll say this: the next time you see that person, it's as if you've never missed them for a second. You got that beautiful bond. So it's a crazy business, but I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yeah, it's certainly unique, that's for sure. And we talk a lot about mental health, and I know you're a big advocate for this. And it's such a great thing that a lot of the interviews I've seen with you and the people you talk to, you're very open about mental health and depression and what people go through. And I think that's such a beautiful thing because you're this image of you're kind of like this generation's, to me, Charles Bronson, where you're this kind of strong, silent male, masculine figure. But you're not scared to talk about these things, which I think is so important.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that I love hearing younger people say that, and it is so important. And I have three sons of my own, and I've lost a couple of really close people to suicide, and one of them was visibly depressed, and it was a struggle. His life was a struggle, and the other one was happy-go-lucky. And in a million years, and that was my he's my first cousin, but he's more like my brother. We lived together. We were raised together, and he brought light and sunshine into every time he walked into a room, but he was struggling silently. I've been so devastated by suicide and mental health issues that it's become a big part of my life. Like and my ears and eyes are always open, even to strangers. Like I get DM'd a lot by people asking for advice, and I'm not obviously trained as a therapist or anything, so I kind of pass on information to people so that they can find the help. But you can't believe, brother, and I don't know if it was COVID or what it's been, but you can't believe how many people I hear from about their mental state of mind. Mostly men, 98% men. And we got to take care of each other. We do, man. We got to take care of each other. You know, and there's so much violence and hate in the world, especially now. It's like, who's going to be president? Who's fighting in the Middle East and who's fighting in Russia? And it's like we're bombarded with images of hate and negativity. It's a lot, man. It's a lot. And there's a lot of us out there struggling, and we need to create a community of men who can take care of each other. You know what I mean? I could talk about this forever. So that's kind of been another thing of mine is to create that community and to let men know that it's okay to not be okay. My father was an Italian immigrant. You didn't say anything. You didn't cry. You know what I mean? You didn't show quote unquote weakness, which is ridiculous. My kids have seen me cry. I tell them, if you feel like crying, crying, but tell me why. And that's the way you got to live your life. I mean, you got to live your life open and willing to help others. And it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, this world. It is, and men get down. Men get down.
as you said there, like there's the people that you can physically and emotionally see that they're having a problem, they've got trouble there. But then it's the ones that don't talk about it, the happy-go-lucky people that you don't see it coming, and
No,
I mean, it's always devastating. But that's
I know.
just it's so difficult to see coming, and you think if I'd known, I could have helped, and
I know.
yeah.
And it's a terrible thing. Then you live with a little bit of guilt because you go, was I being self-serving by not, like, was I worried about something else when he was trying to tell me something? And, then you go down that road, and that's futile. It's ridiculous to do that. But, look, it'll take me to my grave. Like, I will be helping people as much as I can, even if it's just to pass on a phone number to call. It's okay. Go call this number. Talk to somebody. Even if you're not, you don't need to be suicidal, but a lot of men are feeling trapped. Men have taken a beating in the last few years. I mean, somehow it's not so good to be a man. Something happened, and men. I see a lot of men down. And I hate to see that, man.
Everyone needs to look after themselves, and it kind of brings me on a little bit to, I started doing jujitsu in the pandemic, and
Yep.
that's a proper, everyone's in it together, and there's that respect there and everything else. And I know that's obviously something you've done, long life practitioner of jujitsu. Things like that, I think, really help, mental health. I know that if I don't roll at least 3 times a week, I start to feel like, wound up or whatever.
That's right.
And I always say to my mates, I'm like, if you're feeling like a little bit down or whatever, I think, that's something people can try as well.
Brother, it's what you're saying is brilliant, and I love to hear young dudes like recognize this at an early age, because you're going to know how to help yourself. My life is in the gym. I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym in the morning boxing. I'm in the gym at night doing weights. I lift weights every day. I box every day. I read Marcus. It's sitting right on my desk. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Right. I keep my mind and my body constantly moving and strong and positive as much as I can, even when I'm at work. And it's those things I think that will aid in mitigating the bad feelings and the bad thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Because if you get inside your head and you don't go roll and you don't go hit a bag or hit mitts or spar or whatever it is you're doing or lift weights, all you're doing is thinking about those negative thoughts in your head. And guess what's going to happen to those negative thoughts? They're going to grow. They're going to grow and grow. And then you think your life becomes this thing that you've manifested because you're just thinking about that. And so go to the gym. I say this all the time. Don't eat processed food. It's going to f you up. Go to the gym. Whatever it is that floats your boat, I don't care what it is, do it. Read positive things. I'm telling you, I read meditations all the time. And it keeps me focused on what's positive, on what's real, on what is controllable, as opposed to having anxiety about, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to pay my bills? Am I going to live? And all of a sudden you're just a ball of anxious. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, there's the lesson. Jujitsu is perfect. It's perfect because you're using your mind and your body. And it's a spiritual martial art. You know, like flow like water. It is to me, I mean, it's a gift. Because you're playing chess at the same time that you're wrestling. Yeah.
There's no time to think about anything else when you're getting choked out either. So
nope. The only thing to think about is how not to be choked out.
Yeah, exactly.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly.
Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/lifeandfilm. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life and Film Pod. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9-to-5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone for me was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, Betterhelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeandfilm.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now.
And back to the show.
You've got a couple of new projects out. First of all, Werewolves, which, you know, when it comes to films like that, I always think, well, if the werewolf looks good, I'm in. And with this film, it looks fantastic. Was it a lot of practical effects with this one?
It's all practical. It's all practical effects. It's an old school kind of throwback, to the 80s. And Alex Gillis, who did Predator and Pumpkinhead and some Alien work with all of those amazing films, was the guy whose team did our Wolves. So it's all practical. There are a little bit of CGI connective tissue, but, it's an old school, smaller budgeted horror movie with real wolves.
Yeah, I mean, the effects, I was really impressed, man. You don't really get to see that much anymore. Like, there's always a lot of CGI in films like that usually. And just to see that sort of use of, you could tell it was, physical and it was there. And that must really help when you're filming it and you're interacting.
It's so funny because I wasn't convinced in the beginning because I'm working with these performers who are 7 feet tall and they're in wolf costumes. As great as Alex Gillis is, it's a wolf costume with a dude who right before we're about to roll, he's holding a giant wolf head in his hand, and then he puts it on, and you know, you got to really play make believe. So I was as surprised as anybody when I saw the film, because there were times when I would say to Stephen Miller, I'd go, "Hey, buddy, you sure this isn't going to be cheesy? I mean, how are you going to pull this off?" And to his credit and the whole team's credit, the post-production team, it works. You know, look, it's not, we are so used to CGI, you know, between superhero Marvel and DC movies and, you know, and all the rest, you know, all these, I just went to see Gladiator. I mean, you know, there were sharks in the Coliseum, you know, we're so used to seeing CGI that, you know, you got to suspend disbelief a bit and go, wow, those are real guys in a wolf costume. That's, you know, 20 years ago, that's how you did it. And I love that. I kind of, you know, I love the nostalgia of it.
You mentioned there briefly, just to go off topic a little bit, that you saw the new Gladiator. I'm just intrigued on what your thoughts were. And you brought up the sharks, which has been you know, people have kind of been talking about that. I've been like, oh, I'm not sure about the sharks. But what did you think of the movie?
You know, I love Ridley Scott. I've had the pleasure of having dinner with Ridley Scott and Tony Scott, rest his soul. I'm a huge fan. I was a huge fan of Gladiator. How could you not be? Russell Crowe is magnificent. The film is magnificent. Paul Mescal's a really great actor. He's not Russell Crowe. And as good as he is, I've seen Gladiator 30 times because of Russell Crowe and the whole cast performance and Ridley's, who's a master. You know, I didn't need to see sharks in the Coliseum. I happen to know the Coliseum, which I've been to many times. You know, it was not built watertight. And where did they get great white sharks from? I don't, where like, it just came out of the blue for me. Like, why are they doing this? Like, what's the purpose of this? And, you know, this is how I'll leave you with this. I've seen Gladiator 30 times. I'll probably see it 30 more. I'm never seeing Gladiator 2 again. I don't, it's not one of those, it's not one, and it's a big commercial success. But I didn't walk away going, oh, wow, man. You know, like, and again, Russell Crowe, the gravitas of Russell Crowe should not be underestimated.
They're probably a similar age. Russell Crowe was probably around that age when he did Gladiator, but for something about it at the time, he was more of a man, like old school Hollywood man. You know, I mean, it's just a different vibe.
I hate to say that. I mean, we're getting way off topic, but I hate to say that. But
yeah, sorry, I've derailed.
No, Russell Crowe's my age, you know, and he's a dude, man. Like, you know, if I'm in a bar fight, if I'm in a foxhole, I want that guy next to me. I mean, he's going to scrap. Paul Mescal seems like a very well-trained actor. You know what I mean? Yeah. And who I might see in a Gucci ad as well. You know, not to take anything away or not. He's going to have a beautiful career. He's a beautiful actor. But I just, you know, for me, after Gladiator 1, you know, it fell way short for me.
It's a tough one to follow. Anyway,
and there you have our interview. There you have our review of Gladiator 2.
Yeah, it's a separate section there. But with this movie, Werewolves, did you use? I mean, I've been looking you up, and like I already was very aware of your career. I've seen a lot of your films anyway, but I indulged and I watched a few more, and the ones that I hadn't seen, I was like, I'm going to watch them as well. But a bit of I found an interview with you, and you were talking about how Nick Nolte gave you what you use today. Like, you kind of, do you put together a binder for each role? Did you do that for this role?
Yeah, I do it for every role. You know, look, I'm not doing Gladiator 2 with Ridley Scott here. You know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. I you know, there's no false pretense here. But I only know now how to approach the work in this manner. And for me to make it happen, to be authentic in whatever I do, look, it's a great privilege to go and I'll use Gladiator again, to go work with a master like Ridley Scott, right? And do this movie Gladiator. But I'm not blessed with the ability to do those movies, right? So I am blessed to do the movies that I do get offered. And I have to take it as serious, and I have to take my work as serious as if. as if it were that, as if it were that level of film. And I'll tell you why I think that works. This was not supposed to be a 2,000 screen theatrical released movie. It was a small independent film for under 10 million or about 10 million bucks. And because we took it the way we took it seriously, and we took the work seriously, and they did such a great job in post, we got a 2,000 screen release. And that's a testament.
Wow.
Yeah, in America. And that's a testament.
Yeah, amazing.
To taking the work, regardless of, you have to take all of what you are given, because it's a blessing, all of it. You have to take it all as if it's Gladiator. You know what I mean? Or if it's if it's it's Oppenheimer. You must take the work that seriously. And sometimes like this with Werewolves, when it all kind of comes together, you catch lightning in a bottle. And will people go see it? I have no idea. Was it fun to make? Yes. I think everybody was firing on all cylinders. And to me, it's like The Purge meets Werewolves, and there was a big audience for The Purge. So let's see what happens. Yeah,
100%, mate. I had a lot of fun with it, and I do love that about you, that everything that I watch you in, it feels like you're going 100% in, and that's not the case for all actors. So like, I appreciate that work ethic, and you can really feel it on the screen. That's the difference.
Oh, thanks, brother.
You can really feel it.
I think that any actor that makes it in this business, that is a consistent working actor, forget about becoming a star. But, when I see an actor kind of not doing the work because he's achieved a certain level, and there are some of those, or they don't believe in what they're doing it for the money, it just bothers me so much, because, it's a tough business, and you might be here one day, but you could be down here the next. And so you've got to keep it going. You've got to keep that passion and that fire for every single thing the same. It's like being a fighter. It's like being anything. You want to be great no matter what you're doing. That's what I tell my kids. Be great and somebody will find you. Yeah.
Be so good they can't ignore you, which is like, I'm trying to think, it's a famous quote from someone.
Yeah.
Someone iconic. I can't think, but I'll figure that out and I'll put it in.
Somebody far more accomplished than me, and it is. It's about not being ignored, not being able to be ignored because you've done your work. You're so good that you cannot be ignored. Now, does that mean you're going to be Russell Crowe? Or it doesn't matter. Who cares? But you will achieve something in your own life that most people find unachievable. So, there it is. And here's Werewolves. Bite me.
Frank, I promise this is the last thing.
Oh, no, I can do this all day.
I want to ask before we go, this has been wicked, man, because I'm a huge fan, so this is a big deal for me.
I appreciate that, man.
But I want to ask, it's a silly question.
Most embarrassing moments,
embarrassing moments. I'm always embarrassed. Let me see if I could think of anything specifically. I'll tell you what, it's embarrassing, but it's not on set. I did a movie called Minority Report with Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise. And we did the movie for like 6 months, right? And then I got invited to the premiere. And nobody had told me this, but I got cut out of the movie, along with some other parts of the movie that I was in. And I watched the whole movie with my mother, and because I took her as my guest, and I was in the last frame of the film. You saw me turn into camera.
Wow! Yeah, I remember you being in it for sure.
When the credits went up, I was gutted. I was so humiliated and mortified. I had been talking about this movie for 2 years, and all I was thinking was, how am I going to explain this to people? And and this is why you love your mother. I turned to my mother, and before I could say the words, I'm sorry, she said, "You were the best part of the movie." and I was only in the movie for a second. And that's your mother. That's why your mother is your mother. And then Spielberg came up and he looked at me as if to say, it's good to see you, but what the f are you doing here? And that was that. And that stuck with me. That I was so mortified. And it stuck with me for a long time. As far as being on set and being embarrassed, I'm so focused and prepared and serious, even when I'm doing Werewolf. There's no time for embarrassed moments. It's like I'm on point. Like I've people have said, "Oh man, I heard you were tough on set." I'm like, I'm only tough on set if you don't know what you're doing. If you showed up here thinking you're going to get away with something, and I'm on set, we got a problem, and I'm going to be vocal about it. And so, so I don't really. There's no time to be embarrassed. You know what I mean? But the Minority Report, that killed me.
Oh man, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But at least I guess now that time has passed, I guess, can you look back at that and think, I got to be 6 months working with Spielberg and part of that thing. Like that must have been incredible. Yeah. Tom Cruise.
I made a lifelong friendship with Colin Farrell on that, and we did another movie after that. Neil McDonough, who I'm on Tulsa King with now, lifelong friend. That was the gift. The gift is the connections to the people. Movies are going to come and go. And so that was the gift. And as they get older, I realize, the thing isn't always the thing. There's other stuff that happens that are the reason why you were really there, So.
Before we go, I want to say that Kingdom, one of my favorite shows ever. I absolutely love that show, man. And it was such a nice surprise because I think when I saw it, it come onto Netflix and it already had it'd been running for a while. And then I discovered it and all the seasons were on there and I was like, I can just binge this now. And it was around the time I started, I'm pretty sure it was when I started doing Jujitsu. So I was well into it. But yeah, what a wicked show. That show, without giving away to the audience that haven't seen it, because you all need to watch it if you haven't seen it. There's one of the moments in that with Nick Jonas is one of the most shocking moments on TV, man. And I'm sure you know the moment I'm talking about, but I was just, holy shit.
Yeah. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of Nick Jonas. I'm so proud. He came on that show, Green, stuck with it, really got better. And Jonathan Tucker, Matt Luria, all of them. Byron Belasco, who created and was the showrunner, is a genius. Great, still to this day, a great friend. And it's just, to me, I don't think I'll ever get an opportunity like that where it all comes together. My whole life has been about martial arts and fighting, and to put those two things together like that and then get to explore it over 3 years was a gift that, and at the time, I don't think I realized how special it was. But I miss it every day. I mean, to me, I'll never get that again.
I'm still hoping there'll be another season somehow. They'll figure it
out. Before I'm 95.
there's a few things I'd have to figure out. Mate, a legend. Thank you so much, man.
You're awesome, man. Keep killing it.
I will do, mate.
Okay.
Take care.
See you, brother, man.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now.
Thank you to Frank and his team at 42 West. And as always, thank you to our sponsor, BetterHelp.